So we're just going to take a brief look at this. Your test is posted under doc sharing. Now I've got a couple of things. First off, there were 68 points possible, and I took it out of 65. I do that sometimes. It just depends on what I feel like. You know, so that means there were, I think, 3 people that got over 100% in this class. So, yeah, and there were a couple that pushed basically short of 100%. So, you know, the performance was, you know, sometimes students are like, well, how do we do? I'm like, well, I guess now that I graded everything, I'd say you did pretty darn good. So, if you want to do better, I got some ideas. There is a gal, and I can't think of her name. I really like her. She helps with the newspaper, Mr. Hayes with the newspaper.
Autumn?
Yeah, Autumn, thank you. You're everybody's. But Autumn has taken this class, and she's a really good tutor. And so with just not very much, she can actually quickly become an official tutor. So I double-checked with the Success Center. And what that looks like is basically she needs to fill out a piece of paper. And then you go to the Success Center and you say that you're interested in tutoring in this class, and they'll give you a piece of paper to fill out. And then you'll connect up with Autumn. And I don't think you have to pay anything. And it would be fun. I just think you should. So Autumn, I'm going to go ahead and get in touch with her and just make sure that she's kind of waiting in the wings in case somebody wants to. What's her last name? Autumn. I don't know. She was doing good to come up with the. But are you interested in tutoring?
Definitely.
Okay, it's kind of fun. So. Okay, so, but you won't get Autumn's contact information until Autumn is into the system. Does that make sense? So, we'll get there.
I'll talk to her and say, I need you.
Until you talk to her, say, Mrs. Snipes said, please go ahead and put your hat in the ring. And she probably knows, remembers how to become a tutor. She'll get paid for it, too, so don't feel bad about bugging Autumn. Okay? She loves weather, and so that'll all. Okay, so let's take a look at the test. Every test is going to be kind of similar to this, kind of these 3 sections. So, multiple choice question, which is not a variable gas, so which is a permanent gas, so that actually A, nitrogen, was the answer to 1. Question 2 was about the ocean's currents. Some are warm or some are cold, so the best answer is D, that basically the ocean currents transfer heat from the equator towards the poles. Question 3, the Earth's axis of rotation, B, remains tilted at 23.5 degrees. The next one actually had a graph, so question 4 was a question about this graph. Now the little bumps is seasonal because of plant activity, but the overall trend actually increasing carbon dioxide is due to burning fossil fuels. So the best answer there was B for 4. Question 5, when the sun's angle is low, we talked about beam spreading, so the best answer there actually was B. Question 6, a difference between climate and weather is time, so the best answer for 6 was C. Then we go on to 7. The lag of maximum, that was where it's warm about 2, 3, 4 p.m., even though the most intense solar radiation is at noon, so C is the best answer there. Question 8, where do we get our oxygen from? That's plant activity, B. Question 9, what's the question about the scientific method theory? The best answer there is best defined D as a hypothesis that's been extensively tested and generally accepted by the scientific community. Question 10 about the troposphere, it's thickest B over the equator. Question 11, what do the presence of clouds do with regard to your daily temperature range? B is the best answer there with regard to the presence of clouds. It lowers your temperature range. Question 12, which is not one of the spheres that we talked about, aquasphere. It's tempting, but no. So B is not. Question 13, why does Earth have seasons? Why does any planet have seasons? It has to do with the tilted axis of rotation. A. Question 14, this one, because I had some students say, now I need to add together and divide, but this was a question about range, temperature range, so it's a subtraction. This one, I'd like to tell students when I'm going through the unit exams for some questions that won't make it to the final, this one probably won't because it had numbers in it and people don't like numbers. But to get the temperature range, basically you do a subtraction between the high and the low, and it's 9 degrees. So C is the best answer for 14. Question 15, spring equinox in the northern hemisphere occurs on or about coming up, March 21st, B. Question 16, we talked about the differences between the 2 hemispheres. The southern hemisphere has more water, so actually it makes the temperature range less. So E is the best answer there. Question 17, the Earth receives energy from the sun by A, radiation. Question 18, which of these is correct? And as it turns out, A is correct. Water does indeed have a high specific heat. That's what makes it stubborn. B, C, and D are incorrect statements. Question 19, which of these describe what's going on with regard to an equinox? The best answer there is B, that days and nights are equal in length, all latitudes. Question 20, which of these would have a net effect of making the place warmer in the summertime? Think Iowa. If you're in the middle of a landmass, basically you don't have the moderating effect of the oceans, so you're kind of, yeah. Question 21, on the average, for every 1 kilometer you go up in the troposphere, that's the environmental lapse rate. It gets cooler about 6.5 degrees Celsius per 1 kilometer. So that's the ELR. Question 22, wavelengths emitted by the Earth's definitely cooler than the sun. So you figure it's going to be squattier and they're going to be longer wavelengths. So A is the best answer there. 23, what is the most abundant gas in the atmosphere? That'd be E, nitrogen. Question 24, you would have a warm current that's coming from the equator towards the poles. Question 25, energy associated with motion is called B, kinetic energy. 26, good ozone is located in the A, stratosphere. 27, the Kelvin temperature scale, the best answer there that I was after is actually C. And regarding absolute zero, or 0 Kelvin, that this actually has a scientific definition of temperature being the absence of motion. So 27, it won't make it to the final exam either. So when I make these comments, if you're going through review, go ahead and put a little X next to it because it's not going to make it to your final. Yeah, you get it right, now get it right and you don't put it on the final? Question 28, if an object has a higher temperature than C, it will emit more shortwave radiation as compared to something at cooler temperatures. Question 29, I was after temperature gradient. That one probably won't make it to the final either. Temperature gradient, we'll be talking more about gradients. Remember when we had those isotherms that were close together? Okay, and we had a strong temperature gradient there when they're close together. When they're far apart, we have a weak temperature gradient. So best answer for 29 is C. Doesn't mean it was a bad question, it just means I won't put it on the final. Question 30, the atmospheric component that absorbs UV radiation from the sun, that's D, ozone, good ozone. Question 31, the absorption of long-wave radiation by certain gases we generally call the greenhouse effect, A. Question 32, if you're after getting a fix on what the temperature is doing going up in elevation, you would send up a weather balloon with a radio sound, D. Oh, sorry, excuse me, C. 32, the answer to 32 is C. All right, so then kind of fill in the blank. So I was after isotherms as the first term, the lines connecting locations with the same temperature. I was after hypothesis is 34, best guess. I was after specific heat for 35. I was after for 36 perihelion when the Earth is closest to the sun. I was after 37 circle of illumination. That won't make it to your final either. See, I'm already thinking about May. Circle of illumination. Notice that when I mark things not to make it to your final, they're usually ones that when I was grading, like, oh, they didn't. Kind of a number of people didn't get that one. So circle of illumination won't. Biosphere is 38, the sphere that generally contains life. Question 39 was actually permanent gases. Nitrogen is an example of a permanent gas. It's relatively constant with regard to composition. Question 40, I was after wind chill temperature. That'd be a good one to put on there in May, wouldn't it? Wind chill temperature. So question 41, that one, well, I guess it was a mixed bag, so I won't say anything about that one. Latent heat, remember, is the amount of energy that's required to go ahead and, for instance, heat you have to put in to melt something, or heat you have to put in to take that liquid and take it to its gaseous phase. Latent heat is also the amount of energy that's released as gas condenses and as liquid freezes. So that latent heat we're not done with latent heat. So the last page, actually, if you go find it, if you go under doc sharing, the last page, it got away from me in my scanner in my office, so it's a separate file. So these are always going to be worth they're usually going to be worth 3 points. I guess it's possible I could come up with a short answer that I want to make worth 4. But these were all worth three points apiece, so it's possible that you got partial credit. And I try to be kind of consistent across the board. But for 42, I was after the layers of the atmosphere. And notice I put mine, the layer closest to the Earth at the bottom and kind of going up. A lot of you guys put the troposphere at the top and went down, which was cool either way. And to get full credit, you need to tell me something about them. So I kind of listen. Number 43, I kind of took it. I didn't do a complete sentences for my answer key. I just kind of, and on your test, you don't have to write in complete sentences. You can actually sometimes just write a picture to answer it. Okay, so you kind of keep that in mind. And so this one I just kind of diagrammed. I know it has observations, and you have a best guess or a hypothesis. You have more experimentations, okay? You kind of do this loop a few times. That's what I was kind of show. And then kind of the nuts and bolts of it is eventually it can be elevated to a theory, your hypothesis. So 44, this one might be on the final. Dang it. Everybody should know this, okay? One type of energy is called radiation, and radiation comes in different cousins, different forms. And so the most energetic radiation is gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet. Many people missed visible light. So if you did, I think sometimes I put a smiley face. Visible light, okay? Right between ultraviolet and infrared. Okay, then infrared, and then we have microwaves and radio waves. So that one might be on there. And again, this is worth 3 points apiece, so I think if you missed visible light, I still gave you 3 points. I'm like, really? Okay, so visible light is a form of electromagnetic radiation. Yes, ma'am?
Why is it backwards for Roy G. Biv?
So the mnemonic device that I love actually is longest to shortest wavelength.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and there were several people, and it still made me smile, because the visible light, y'all broke it out into the different components. But the red is the longest, and the violet is the shortest. So, good job, though. Then the next one, short answer. Okay, for 45, for full credit, you needed not just list the ways of energy transfer, sensible heating, but also to give an example. So some people, oh my gosh, you were little artists out there. 'Cause some people like drew the whole pan and the fire. That was so cool. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind. And number 46, I was after you just to pick one of these ways that temperatures kind of varies, and give an example of it. And it was kind of fun reading your examples. And then 47, I wanted you to try to kind of think through if you're zapping a chunk of water and a chunk of soil, sandy soil, with the same amount of energy, then we kind of talked about how water's so stubborn. So that's why actually it'll warm, but it'll warm more slowly than the sandy soil. So, all right. So yeah, the grade book is updated.
What's the extra credit for